Welcome, everyone. I'm Daniel from OpenSensors, and thank you for joining us on this webinar on leveraging engagement technology to improve workplace experience. But before we get into the conversation, I'd like to draw your attention to the Q&A function. You'll also see a chat button, but it's easier for us to manage your answers and questions if you use the Q&A function. Please feel free to ask any question you might have throughout, and we'll either try to slot these in during the session or cover them at the end. Joining me today is Julia Pak, who is Workplace Strategy Lead here at OpenSensors. And she brings a wealth of experience from companies such as JLL and Colliers International, where she has led, designed, and implemented workplace strategies. She will cover various topics around user experience in the office. First, we will explore how we can drive real estate value and experience through digital engagement tools. Then we're going to look at how we can apply UX principles to design and future-proof workplace redesign projects. And finally, we'll discover the different types of workplace technology and how these can optimize employee and visitor experience. Without further delay, I will hand you over to Julia.
Thank you, Daniel, and a very warm welcome to everyone. In our previous webinars, we have already discussed quite a few workplace data-related topics, such as how to collect and intelligently analyze utilization data, how to develop business cases, and how to build a data-driven workplace strategy. And perhaps it's time today to talk about something different, which in my opinion is really the single most important element of today's most progressive workplaces, which is not the data, but a human experience or employee or visitor experience. In other words, a human component of a successful workplace. But of course, as a technology company helping clients create better data-driven workplace strategies, we are very much interested in still in technology, in integrating quantitative data with the qualitative insights, and so are our clients. So basically, what I will be discussing today, or what I hope to discuss, is the link between employee and visitor experience, technology, and enterprise and real estate value that these two are delivering. Now I'd like to very briefly discuss why getting a handle on employee experience has suddenly become so important. There are a lot of ongoing changes across the three dimensions of work, which are business, cultural, and spatial dimension, which are all give rise to growing importance of workplace experience. It's very hard to attribute any of these drivers or trends to a single dimension because they're very much interdependent and interrelated. But here I just attempted to map it out and unpack these drivers and trends, putting them into three groups. Let's have a look at the most notable trends shaping the need for new approaches to workplace experience, curation, creation, and measurement. Starting with business drivers. And here is a rise of freelance and gig economy, which we witness a boom in. According to Deloitte Global Human Capital Report last year, about a third of employers say that they expect a rise in contractors, freelancers, and other gig workers, which is not permanent staff. And this is happening at the backdrop of increasingly employee mobility overall. Working from home policies, flexible hours, etc., all mean that employees and contractors alike change the ways they use office space and change the way they work and use both desks and collaboration areas. So this growing variation in workplace arrangements is a second big trend, and it sits really in between business and people and culture dimensions. Another driver here is also very important in my opinion, and this is ongoing digital transformation that so many companies across the board are now engaged in. Companies automate more and more processes and tasks and empowering their workforce with digital technology, enabling their high performance. humans increasingly collaborate with machines, and that also calls for new approaches to workplace experience. But perhaps major changes calling for rethinking and reshaping workplace experience are happening within the people and work culture dimension. And the first very powerful trend is changing expectations and generational shift. According to another survey, as many as 97% of employers agree that employees' expectations of the experience in the workplace are changing. Partially, this shift in expectations is the result of transition to activity-based working in so many companies globally. And as a result, workplaces get new design catering to more agile working and also to preferences of millennial workforce. Of course, many of today's employees are digital natives for whom wellness, technology, and lifestyle options, that is food, coffee, and lifestyle amenities, as well as engagement platforms facilitating access to these amenities, are becoming key decision-making factors in their choice of workplace. Employees' expectations, in turn, drive or inform the employer's preferences towards buildings with on-site amenities like gym or fitness facilities, as well as those providing tenant engagement platforms, enabling employees to access the workplace and amenities, as well as to connect with the larger workplace communities, both within and outside the building. And space and real estate markets is the last of the three dimensions to explore. And here, good and well-curated and also, of course, digitally enabled experience really sells spaces to tenants and employee community. Developers, landlords, and space as a service operators like WeWork provide amenity-rich environment in which going to work becomes almost like a curated experience, much like a stay in a full-service hotel. So this is a very powerful trend, which is a hotelization of office space. We have just looked at the three key changes and trends in the ways we work and make our workplace and real estate-related choices. Let's now explore a few ways how creating better employee and visitor experience can help companies leverage these trends and opportunities. Curating distinct workplace experience and bringing employees on board of change programs is becoming a critical success factor in the corporate workplace world. Similarly, landlords and spaces service providers, like I already mentioned, also respond to changing expectations by designing and offering distinct experiences and digital workplace service programs and platforms to tenants and employees community. And here are just some of the ways companies benefit from and need to invest in engagement and curated experience for employees, clients, and visitors. Well, first of all, experience really helps to understand the change in loyalty and value drivers. So this is to help companies navigate these changing expectations that we just discussed. Second, growing value through changing employee experience is building impactful communication through emotional connection. Employee experience technology allows engage with digital natives, offering them pretty much the same seamless experience they come to expect as consumers. Again, seamless integration of digital workplace and business technology is one of the trends that really transform the industry and shape the way companies view importance of employee experience. Creating feedback loops allows to inform workplace design and processes and enables workplace and organizational change at large. As we know, over 70% of all change initiatives don't quite achieve the objectives. As we discussed in previous webinars, employee engagement and ownership of a change as a part of cultural shift is quite critical for success of such change programs. And lastly, this is a factor that really important and relates to landlords and flexible space operators rather than to companies, but still growing asset value through better tenant experience. So just to sum up here, creating better experience of interacting with the space pays off through increase in both business or enterprise value and real estate value.
Julia, I'm just going to shoot in a question here from the audience before we go into the next section.
Yeah, go ahead.
And I think it quite nicely links in. So what does a good feedback loop look like? And are there any tools we can use for that?
So feedback loop, simply put, is a process in which the outcomes or outputs of a system are circled back and used as inputs. So this is how feedback can be used to improve or create products or designs or solutions, including, of course, workplace products. But feedback loops is not the same as feedback. The difference is generally, I think it's regularity and continuity of receiving feedback. So basically, receiving recurrent feedback and acting on this feedback is what makes a good and kind of highly effective feedback loop. Yeah, so UX, the reason why I thought it might be interesting to explore UX when discussing workplace experience is because UX approaches are being actively adopted by workplace design industries because they facilitate this navigation between people and resources like space, increasingly through modern workplace technology. So let's just I would like to maybe very briefly give a definition of what user experience is, since it's a very much talked about term. So it really includes all aspects of end users' perception as they interact with a solution or service, or in our case, a workplace solution or service. Of course, user experience is just one of the many ways to approach human-centric design of physical workplace and experiences. But I think it's a very much valid and very powerful approach because it provides a framework and tools for iterative design and co-creation of workplace products and processes, of course, and also experiences. Let's very quickly see what some of the UX principles are, so we know if we can apply it to workplace experience. User experience focuses on having a very deep understanding of users, what they need, what they value, and what inspires them, and also seeking to understand their abilities and limitations. The most important thing about UX to take away from this very quick introduction is that it really focuses on improving the quality of the user's interaction with the product through the cyclical design process. So the two pillars or two kind of fundamentals of a good UX process are co-creation, which is using user-generated data, and iteration, which is making validations and adjustments at every single stage of the process. Again, engaging user or user behavior data. So, I mean, here is a very simple diagram illustrating this process, and iteration and validation are probably the key elements here. And now let's see how these principles can be and should be really applied to designing and providing workplace experience. Yeah, so here I'm just basically sharing some of the ideas around how we can use UX design principles to designing and implementing better workplace experiences. So when applied to workplace experience design, the UX process might look like this, the diagram on the right hand, like a series of iterative stages that includes collect, which is collect the data, communicate, which is communicate the change, and provide and change, which is act on this feedback. And again, we see this little cycle circles with iteration and validation, which is the kind of basic element of UX. So the key elements here would be collecting user insights, not just what employees say, but also what they do. And this is something that can be done with the help of modern workplace technology and workplace analytics, as I hope to demonstrate on next slides. Also, modern workplace analytics tools, like I said, come very handy because most workplace technology not just supports workplace services or facilitates these services, but also collects and analyzes the data. It's also about creation of formal or informal feedback loops instead of just giving and receiving one-off feedback, like those surveys that still so many companies do once every 3 or 5 years.
Julia, sorry for interrupting, but we got in another question from the audience. Sorry, could you give an example of using iteration in the workplace?
So basically, iteration is something like going back and forth or having like several stages of adjustment and making sure that the design that you offer really serve the purpose. So just to give a more concrete example of what it means, right? So just a real life example from one of our clients. Okay, they were designing activity-based working. So it was a office redesign project, and where all teams got the same collaboration furniture, right? Because the choices of furniture were based on employee survey conducted as a part of preparation to this redesign. So they did the survey and they received feedback, and they ordered identical sets of furniture for every floor in the new building. However, every team, it just happens that every team works differently, and as it happens on some floors, several types of furniture like project tables or Scrum workspaces were very popular, and on some floors, this furniture were barely used. So the teams just had no use for it whatsoever. And the facility management team has conducted a post-move space utilization study to understand these patterns around usage of collaboration spaces and readjust furniture planning according to results of the studies. So basically according to the team's work styles. So in total, these are 2 iterations, and the FM team, as far as I know, now is planning to repeat the survey again this year after furniture is changed, to see how these changes contributed to overall work and collaboration productivity, and basically to get the feedback from employees about if they're happy with the furniture now or not. Yeah, just basically very quickly cover the rest of the slide. So at the bottom of this is a little arrow with a number of points in time or situations where employee experience and user experience is especially valuable. And these are designing and implementing a change, evaluating performance, and improving design, service, or solution. A lot of forward-thinking companies are turning to technologies now, in particular workplace and collaboration technology, as well as workplace analytics to drive the engagement and business performance. So let's have a look at some of the examples and areas where workplace and engagement and also communication technology can help optimize employee experience and grow enterprise value. First area enabled by technology is gathering employee experience, like collecting insights and receiving structured feedback. And here, I think the most maybe obvious example is Lisman Index, which is the world's largest employee workplace experience assessment benchmark. Lisman Index captures employee feedback on how effectively different aspects of workplace support them in their work. So this is a type of analytical tool that is very just instrumental in creating feedback loops, like I discussed earlier. Like you said, we did type of thing, as well as employee experience that feeds back to the workplace design. Second, very large and growing area is communicating and co-creating the change. Dispersed workforce, especially in global companies, needs effective and engaging communication tools that would create that sense of community in our increasingly virtual workplace. I'm sure a lot of audience members are familiar with the employee apps like Yammer, which is very popular with medium-sized and large companies, as well as with Microsoft apps like Microsoft SharePoint and Microsoft Teams, which also integrate with Yammer, allowing to communicate and sharing content and create and host larger small events like town halls or onboarding sessions or training sessions. But there are also a number of really interesting new engagement apps by much smaller companies. Like, for example, London-based CNET, those video crowdsourcing platform enables organizations to create very engaging and very fun videos with customers, employees, or fans. Just to give an example, CNET recently collaborated with Vodafone on a large-scale engagement project that brought together the voices and faces, I guess, of Vodafone employees from over 25 countries or 25 global markets, which was like all about empowering the global workforce to be part of the corporate Vodafone storytelling. And then also there is a suite of tenant experience and co-working management apps used by landlords and flexible space operators to engage with the tenants and with the employees or residents in case of co-working. So apps like HQO, Workwell, and Eden, just to name a few, are integrated tenant experience platforms that manage and strengthen relationships and help connect tenant employees to the building services and communities in and around the building as well. And the last example or the last area that I wanted to share is visitor management apps and how they can reshape and help rethink employee and visitor experience. Yeah, so visitor management is actually a funny one because as we used to know it, it has come a long way from these old logbooks that just sat on security tables or receptionist tables, and that were a nightmare to collect information from and to analyze it. And also, I think it was very tempting for everyone, not just for me, to take a peek at who signed in before us. Visitor management driven by technology now evolved into a very warm and efficient workplace experience for both visitors and meeting hosts. Let's just quickly see what kind of visitor management function or functionality can create tangible enterprise value. Well, first of all, of course, it's a chance to leave the best possible first impression. Many visitor experience platforms ensure that by sending personalized meeting invitations with the wayfinding directions outside and inside the office, providing host contacts and other valuable information, like this snapshot on the right that I received as a part of the research for this webinar. So this is from Proxy Click. I think it was an email that they sent me to show how this meeting invitation might look like. Second very important functionality is integration, because it's all about API integration now. So they do and they should integrate with calendars, wayfinding apps, meeting room management, security, sales, sales and marketing, like Salesforce, for example, with the real-time alerts via Slack or email or text messages. Hosts know instantly when their visitors have checked in. Third functionality is a much better management of visitors and deliveries by front desk that really saves time and money. And some platforms even offer virtual receptionists to enhance and streamline check-in experience, but this is still very much an emerging technology. And the user experience component here is that it's possible to collect and use visitor analytics from these apps, and the data would be like a very wide range of data, like host teams, frequency and types of meetings, times and size of these internal meetings, average times spent by visitors, and of course the experience if they decide to share it through the same app. So all this data can be fed back to business to inform their meeting room space demand forecasting and also wider business strategies. That's pretty much it from me today. Now over to Daniel, who will summarize some takeaway points from today's session.
Thank you, Julia, for the presentation. So to summarize what we've covered today, first, there are now new demands across work, culture, and space dimensions, and they create a need for a human-centric workplace experience. This is driven by trends such as the gig and freelance economy and a generational shift. The second takeaway is that a better experience through design, engagement, communication, and feedback loops, they're critical to the success of a workplace project. Third, is that UX-based workplace experience is created through a process, an iterative cyclical process of user research, communication, and changes. And the last point, integrated workplace technology. It combines both user experience and usability with data analysis. And this is going to continue to evolve as more integrations between workplace and business technology come into place. So we're gonna kick off with some questions from the audience. Yulia, here's a question for you. Do you have any case studies of companies which have successfully adopted UX principles in their workplace?
Yes, a lot of companies do use UX to design their employee experience nowadays, some on larger scale, like let's say Airbnb did with a big bank like a few years ago, while some companies, and most of them, introduce employee experience in piecemeal fashion gradually, like building this transition. Examples here include, well, just from DHL to Honeywell to ASOS, which is online fashion retailer, to Morgan Stanley even. So yeah, actually, Airbnb is an interesting case. It's a company that, like we all know, that really is embodiment, like a walking embodiment of a sharing economy, and also a major industry disruptor. At least they used to be. So a few years ago. So back, I think I first heard about it in 2015, so it might be a bit earlier than that, but they introduced employee experience function in addition to traditional operations with a view to gradually shift entire people operations to under umbrella of employee experience function. And employee experience designed and supported entire employee journey from basically recruiting to alumni and everything in between. The company used its mission, which is creating a world where you can belong everywhere, to create this memorable and really distinct workplace experience, spanning pretty much all aspects of work environment, including learning and volunteer experience, design of the office, and even, of course, the food. I think Glassdoor recognized this effort because they, back in 2016 or 17, Airbnb became #1 place to work for, according to Glassdoor, which is a quite credible source. Yeah, so this is just one of the examples, and I'm not sure how much technology was involved in that transition, but I know for a fact that today a lot of companies really integrate technology into the new kind of employee experience paradigm.
Thank you. Another question that came in, you mentioned talent attraction and retention as part of the reason for why we should focus on human experience or the employee experience. Is there a way to quantify the value of better experience?
Well, workplace experience is very subjective category because it's all about how people think and what people think and how they feel about the design and the space around them. So it's very different from the usual planning, like space planning metrics like density or vacancy rates or even light or noise levels. Yeah, but since employee experience is so much, it is borrowing from user experience, so much tools and approaches, I think it would be very valid to turn to user experience for metrics and measurements. I don't have this chart in my presentation, but as far as I remember, the key metrics there were usability, which is how functional and how reliable, how easy to use and how accessible a solution or a design or an interface is. So in our case, it's all about workplace properties. The Second metric, from user experience standpoint, has to do with emotional response. So I think it was a desirability, or how people emotionally respond to solution or service. Does it look good? So it's aesthetics. And finally, I think the most pragmatic dimension of measuring this experience would be utility. So does it meet the needs, which is like the most basic stuff, really? Does it help people accomplish their goals?
Thank you very much, Julia. And that's it for time today. We really hope you enjoyed the broadcast today. And to make sure you don't miss out on future webinars, please sign up to our newsletters, which you can do on our website, and have a great day. Thank you.